Now we're getting to the final stretch of the process to find you a great worker. We've evaluated their skills, we've evaluated their personality, hopefully we've looked at the communication, we've gotten some good signs from them, hopefully they're responsive to the emails when we ask them stuff or when we require something of them, and everything's been great so far. So finally we get to the final test, so to speak, the test task. So we need to give them a little test task to do to see what kind of worker they are and what kind of skills they have. Now, most people get to this point where they're just like, I could just hire someone. If they don't work out, I'll just fire them or whatever else, so I don't need to give them a test task. No, you really do, because you don't want to go through all the trouble and waste all your time of hiring someone and then trying to give them a second chance to prove themselves and so on and so forth. And when you get them to already sign an agreement, it's just a hassle to do all that paperwork when you could have done a simple test task and gotten your answer that way, without spending a couple months of probation or something like that. So it is important to give them the test task no matter what before you agree to hire them. Only on rare occasions, if it's someone that's been recommended by someone else and they just speak, just volumes about this person and why they're so great, and they've linked to their portfolio and you already see how they do amazing work, well then you probably don't need to give them a test task. But for most people you do. You need to offer to pay them a small fee for doing the task. Don't just say, I need you to do a task and see how you do work, because it's not really fair to even spend their time and them not make any kind of money from it. And it also looks like maybe your whole process is just a sneaky way to take advantage of people to get free work. So you tell them, I need you to do a test task, and then you say you're going to be paid for it. A good price for the test task would be about 10% of whatever their monthly salary requirement would be. So if they're wanting $300 a month to work for you full time, tell them you pay them $30 to do this little test task. If they're a programmer that wants $500, $600 a month, tell them you give them $50 or $60 for this small test task. The test task should take at least a few hours. So come up with something that will basically take a few hours. Tell them to do a web page redesign of this existing page, and tell them whatever they can get done in 2 to 3 hours. They don't need to work too much time on it, but let's see what they've got in 2 to 3 hours work of creating a new web page design for your current home page. Do something along those lines. Or if you're having them do some writing for you, give them some example keywords and say, I'd like you to write 5 articles or 4 articles or whatever you think may take 2 or 3 hours. Or just say, hey, write as many articles as you can in 2 to 3 hours, and I'm going to use this as a test for you to see what kind of work you do. And then you'll get a gauge that way of how fast they work as well. But you're looking for the quality of work and what they give back. So there's a number of little test tasks you can give. If it's a programmer, you can basically tell them to write a small script or to do something specifically if you're thinking about it. Maybe it's the step 1 of the app that you want to have made, something simple they can program. But give them a test task. Here's an important, very important thing. The task that you're giving them should be open-ended. In the task, you need to include things that make them have to make their own decisions. So for example, when you tell them to do a redesign of a home page just to see how they work out, tell them, I'd also like to use some of your own creativity and decision making to maybe decide where the menu should go, or to maybe add some other elements to the site that maybe you've seen on other sites or work with other clients that you think would be better for our business and our marketing. Feel free to add some other things that you think it might use. And you'll find, like with designers, they may add some little buttons for Twitter and Facebook and other social networking things on your design that you didn't already have. So make it open-ended. When you're telling someone to write some content, tell them, feel free to do some research and see what other companies are doing in this market, and maybe you can, figure out some good ideas that we could use for, creating this article series for this. But go figure some stuff out and then let me know what you figured out along with your writing. So make it open-ended. Let them show if they're proactive and if they're a go-getter, because that's the kind of person you're looking for. Don't give them a deadline to have it completed. This is a big mistake most people make with a test task. They give someone a little project and they say, I want you to do this, and then they pay them, or they say they're going to pay them. They give them the details of the task, and then then they're off and running. Don't do that. Just say, as soon as you can get this done, that would be great. Well, why do you think we're going to do that? Well, it's obvious. If they get it done right away, that says a lot about them, that they're anxious to get this job. They really want to work hard for you. If it takes them 4 or 5 or 6 days, that potentially, now they could have a reasonable excuse that they're so busy at their job or something, but that technically, and typically I should say, says a lot about their work ethic. So don't give them a deadline to have it completed. Just say as soon as possible. So this test task is very, very important. It's a great way to evaluate what type of worker someone may turn out to be. And last but not least, you got to know that if they're a good candidate, they're going to rise to the top, so to speak, and it's going to get your attention. You're going to know if they're a good candidate because you're going to look again on the quality of their work, how fast it gets done, and how much they use their own decision making in that test task step of leaving it open-ended. So the test task ultimately should give you a good indication of what type of worker they're going to be for you. Now let's take a quick look at a sample email that you can use when you get to the test task point of our process. When you're ready to give them that test task, here's the email that you can send them, or you can of course chop this up and edit it any way you want. Hi, first name. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You seem like the perfect candidate for this job, smiley face. Again, why do we do this? Well, if we've gone through the skills part and we like their skills, we've gone through the personality part and we still like them and think they're a good candidate, we really need to make sure they know that they're basically about to get the job. So you say, thank you, thank you, thank you. You seem like the perfect candidate for this job. Another little smiley face, just its arm, then make them feel good about the process. We have one last step for you before we can proceed with hiring you. That basically says it right there. We are ready to hire you. There's only one step left. Basically say, I have a sample task for you to complete. We're going to pay you $50. And this, by the way, this note, this should be about 10% of monthly salary. You need to, of course, delete that. Don't put that in the email. That's just a reference for you to know that that's what that amount should be, like I already explained in the presentation. To complete this task, just so you know, we aren't trying to waste your valuable time. If you do a good job on this test task, then you'll be offered the job. This is a very critical paragraph, and it's written a very, very certain way. We're basically asking them to do a test task, the sample task, and we're coming right out and we're saying, we're going to pay you $50. So you're saying they're getting paid for their time, which is important. You don't just want to say, hey, do this test task, because they may think you're just trying to take advantage of them and get free work out of them. But notice the language here. Everything is very carefully calculated, how the words that are chosen for this. We're going to pay you $50. I don't say we can pay you $50. I don't say if you're okay with it, we'll pay you $50. I say we're going to pay you $50. It's basically assuming they're going to do the work no matter what, and they're going to, it's like we've already handed them $50. Says, here's your $50, do the test task. So the words are carefully chosen there for that paragraph. It's assuming they're going to do it, and they're more likely to do it because we've worded it that way. Then basically we say, here's what I need you to do as soon as possible, please, or as soon as you can, please. This is where you write up what you want done as the task. I already explained in the presentation some ideas for what you want to do for that task. And then you basically say, please send me an email when it's done and where I can check it out. Thanks. So, like I mentioned in the presentation, everything matters with how fast they do it, the quality of the work, what kind of decision making they make when it's open-ended, and all of those things together. And of course, once we get that test task back, we're going to have a good idea of if this person is an ideal candidate to, get them started and hire them to start working for us. And again, we can always, let them go and not use them anymore if they don't work out. But by this point, we've really done a great job of qualifying them, and hopefully we found an awesome worker for your business.